know, so often when I start planning for these shows, I try really hard to bring you real world experiences, the realistic views that other companies are experiencing, and giving you an opportunity to learn from them. I mean, we've talked about this a million times here on the Human Resource. I'm trying to give you the tools to learn from others, me included, so that you don't have to take the bumps and bruises that the rest of us have experienced. And I've got a really interesting one here, but it's going to lead to a bigger topic that we've been alluding to over and over again here this past year in 2024. So let's start out with the case. The case was OSHA. And believe it or not, you know, we sometimes kind of forget that OSHA's out there and that they're filing claims other than just, serious workplace injuries of machinery and those kind of things. But OSHA still has a very active part in workplace violence. And this is where I keep reminding all of you that OSHA actually, remember, they have the general duty clause. And that requires all companies, if you employ people, you are responsible for providing a safe and secure workplace. And that means in every aspect. So you don't have to be unionized. You don't have to be in construction or in a manufacturing setting. If you employ people, you need to know the general duty clause. And this company did not. This was a case of OSHA filing a claim against the Circles of Care. Now, this is a kind of a healthcare type, nursing home type facility. And they filed the claim they fought the claim because an individual actually got injured on the job after the company had already been cited twice for similar situations. OSHA found that Circles of Care could have reviewed and updated their existing workplace violence policies and implemented a comprehensive workplace prevention program, but they didn't. And the individual was actually attacked by a patient in a situation that could have easily been prevented. Now, overall, the case ended up, settling for over $101,000. But we've talked about this over and over again. How many times do things happen and we don't learn from them? We don't have that last minute meeting to say, okay, what just happened? What should have happened? What could have happened? What should we do moving forward? And if you're following the podcast, I did a podcast on just those questions. But what I thought when I was reading this particular case was that I started thinking, oh my gosh, here we go again. We've got a company that doesn't want to face or deal with the circumstances at hand and let something go and let something continue. And the results ended up in this huge fine of $101,000. But as you have heard on the show a million times, this does not include attorney's fees. And right now in this time period, attorneys are making anywhere from $400 to $1,000 an hour, depending on their expertise, depending on the complexity of the claim and the cases they're working on. But when you're talking weeks worth of work to represent you and your company, how much do you think that's going to cost? The attorney's fees alone can well exceed the fines that you're going to settle with a particular employee. So I wanted to go back over my favorite word this year in regards to who are you enabling? What are you enabling? Because this is a very valid question and a very valid point you need to really take a look at, because here we are at the end of the year. 2025, this is a great time for you to clean slate, look at your teams and go, you know what? We need to identify what we've been enabling, and we need to identify what we need to address. I just talked to a business owner the other day, and he said, I don't know, there seems to be so much we have to work on, so much we have to do, and it just doesn't seem to end. And I said, well, then don't expect it to end. But do expect some closure on the things that you can put behind you. What things can we deal with that we haven't been dealing with? So here's some questions. I have to give an individual credit for this, because she and I sat down and started talking about the things that are going on in her company. And Jen, I'm giving you full credit for this because you sat down with me and we went over points that identify enabling in the workplace. So again, this is a checklist you can ask for. Reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to send this to you. But here's question 1. What are you avoiding when confronting a problem? Are you avoiding just point blank going directly after a problem? And it doesn't matter what the problem is. It doesn't matter whether it's a bully on the work floor, or whether it's not working on your open enrollment in a timely manner for benefits. It doesn't matter whether it's recruiting and spending the hours you need to in getting the best candidate versus taking care of that individual who just can't seem to come to work on time. What are you avoiding? Confrontation's hard. I get that, but I have recommended over and over again, Crucial Conversations is a phenomenal book when it comes to confronting difficult conversations. Think about that. How about number 2? Who or what are you allowing to be covered up of someone's actions? Think about your supervisors. Are there individuals out there who are making excuses for others because they just don't want to deal with the problem? Oh, that's the way he's always been. Oh, well, she probably just had an issue this morning. Yeah, she's been late all week, but, I'm sure it'll get better next week. That is a blatant enabling tactic. How about number 3? Continuing to employ those people who are problem children. I was talking to a company right before I got here to the station, and he and his HR person looked at me and said, well, but Pandy, we can't come in and just start enforcing all of our policies because they're going to leave us. They know we need them. And my point was, apparently you don't need them enough. If you're allowed them to get away with this kind of stuff, what really do you need then? You're being held hostage. And yes, the workforce is tight. Yes. But again, you can't have a policy that you can't enforce. That's a huge detriment to you. That's a huge risk to you as a company. If you can't enforce your attendance policy, then you need to change that policy. Remember, you're supposed to be holding everyone to particular policies, maybe not all the same policy, but if you're not going to enforce any of your policies and you're just going to let them run and do whatever they want to do because you're afraid of losing them, then pitch the policies. Okay, number 4. Are you neglecting the business risks in employing them and allowing them to just do whatever they want to do? Are you pushing aside? Look, I know he's a bully, and I know that the employees are afraid to work with him, but gosh, he's been here forever. He's part of the family. You have to understand that if you can't protect the company, if you cannot face the liabilities of what similar things like what this company did with $101,000 plus attorney's fees, you have no business overseeing anyone and being a leader in your company. And I'll tell you that straight to your face. Don't put your employer at risk. Employers, don't allow your team, your leadership, to put you at risk. That money's going to come out of your till, not necessarily out of theirs. In some cases, they may have to pay the price as well. But look at the risks that you're allowing and deal with them. Kind of going along with that, are you acknowledging the toxic environment? I was in a retail facility the other day, and the individuals were talking about how their cashiers aren't always the best customer service people. And they get as many complaints about their call-in center for customer service as they do their actual cashiers. And I thought, well, wait a minute. Now we're not even talking about employee relationships, but what is that doing to your brand? If you've got a toxic environment and people are afraid to call in about a product, or if they're afraid to deal, putting in a complaint or even just making a purchase and doing it in a pleasant way, why would they even come back? Why would they come into your toxic environment? And as much as you want to try to protect and think that no one knows that you've got problems within your company, trust me, your vendors are going to know, your clients are going to know, the families of your employees are going to know, and people talk. There are very few secrets, very, very few secrets. And as Scott Warwick would tell you, if you don't think they're recording you, if you don't think they've got their cameras out, you're fooling yourself. Technology is everywhere, and they are going to use it against you if they get the chance. Next question. How many of you are making excuses? And it kind of goes back up to covering up people's actions. If you're making excuses for employees, well, she's part of the family, and I mean, she's been here since the company opened, and that's just who she is. You're not doing yourself any favors. We have talked about this over and over again in regards to what are the other employees saying when they see a bad employee get away with something. You may be thinking that it's the nice thing to do, but enabling bad behavior is chasing away the good ones. I know you're avoiding confrontation, which is the next question. I know you are. If you've got an enabler in your workforce, you're avoiding the confrontation. And if you're in the process of the confrontation, are there consequences? And that's your last question. Are we exercising consequences when we see an enabler, when we see this kind of activity, this kind of toxic stuff going on that may be putting the company at risk, may not be, but we're headed that way? Listeners, viewers, please understand, you don't have to put up with what you're putting up with in many cases. Identifying, addressing, working through, it's not for everyone. But if you're going to be a leader in the organization, if you're going to say that you've got HR anywhere close to your role, then you better learn to identify those enablers and address it fast. If Circles of Care had changed their policies, if they had worked on the behaviors that were going on in their environment, this individual would not have gotten jumped. She would not have filed a claim with OSHA. She would not have claimed the place to be a violent place to work. And I wouldn't be using them on this show. Look, sometimes we just need to take a good hard look at ourselves, express some humility, and get it turned around. Thanks for listening. Hope you liked it. Let us know here at the Human Resource.